Hi, I'm Whack.
Hi, and I'm Pat, and welcome to another episode of the Weekly Orbit, the week ending Friday, October 13th. It's the 13th, Friday. Good day for a scary movie. Halloween's coming up. The markets are a little scary, Whack, but I see you're not in your normal dark cave. Where does this podcast find you today?
I'm in a different room just so I can get a little bit of peace and quiet. So,
Ah,
yeah.
that's good. Well, we got a lot to go over, and I'm going to start today with a post from Anthony Sassano before we get into stats. He tweeted out today, the final stage of the bull market makes you feel like you're going to make infinite money. The final stage of the bear crab market makes you feel like you're never going to make money again. Hold on, friends. The light of the bull market will shine upon us soon enough. And I think it's just good words of wisdom here from Anthony, who's been through a few cycles himself. It seems like, it might be a good idea. Just don't check your balances. Just, I personally do a weekly, DCA buy every week. Doesn't matter what's going on. I just put my head down and just do it. Because at some point, we'll all be rewarded. But right now, it's just tough. Whack, what do you think?
Yeah, so I've been through one bear market before, and that one was a lot more painful. So I got into crypto in December 2017, which was the pico top basically of the Bitcoin bull market back then. And then I was buying into the Ethereum bull market. So I watched my portfolio over the following year and basically over the next 2 years kind of go down 90% a couple of times. So that was a whole different like ball game back then for me. And what I realized was like, I believe this technology is going to exist and it's going to be here for a while. And I think that this is something that isn't going away. So the best thing to do in this situation is to buy more. And that decision treated me really well going into the bull market of like 2020 into 2021, of course. And I'd be lying if I said that this was painful as well. Like honestly, like I'm not really right now feeling the pain of this bull market, and that is only because of like being in the privileged position where I've been in crypto for a while now, right? So it doesn't hit me in the same way as it's hitting other people in the community, other people who are watching this. So I totally understand that I'm in a position of privilege here,
Mm-hmm.
but it just doesn't feel as existential this time as it did last time. Like last time, there was still a legitimate talk of crypto might go to zero, right? And that was a much bigger part of people's like the risk analysis than it is now for the legitimate reasons, right? Like I don't think crypto is going to zero anymore. Like it's like 100 times less likely to happen than it was in 2018, but that kind of changes the approach a little bit. And I know that a lot of people in our community are down bad right now, and I really feel for them. But the thing that I learned in 2018 and 2019, that's when I built up most of my ETH that I had in 2020 as well, is if you believe in technology and if you believe that it will come back, then the conviction in that belief can be rewarded really well. And of course, this is not financial advice. Please, please, please do not invest more than you can afford to lose because you could still lose all of it. But that's what I noticed, and that's what I think Anthony Sassano here is talking about as well. And it's really funny because I've been looking at the charts a lot recently, not in terms of like my portfolio or anything like that, but just looking at like the inverse of what Rocket Pool, the RPL token, was doing into February and March and April, and how that bull run just felt like it was going to last forever, right? Like this,
Mm-hmm.
just a mini cycle. And now, we've had 25, I think, weeks of down only pretty much since then. Like, I think we've had 2 or 3 red candles in the last 6 months. And that in itself is just an idea of how it's inversed in a way that it hadn't before. Like it was up only for so long, right?
Yeah.
Like since last summer, it was up only, and then it's been down only since then. But just like the up only couldn't last forever, the down only can't last forever as well,
No.
unless it's zero, of course.
Unless you're Luna, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly,
RPL is not Luna. It's got good fundamentals. It's got a
exactly.
great team, a huge
Yes,
community, and we're not. You can't go down forever, just like you can't go up forever, just like you
yes,
said.
yeah. And I think what Anthony's saying here as well is like, just the point at which you get that feeling of utter jubilation, like that, understand that that doesn't last and, trade accordingly. And then the feeling of utter despair that I've seen people like, present now, right? Like, that sentiment is sadly not uncommon.
Yeah.
Just to have that belief that that doesn't last also. But I think there's some really wise advice that you could get from Anthony about like these market feelings and sentiments. I feel like, I've been through a couple of cycles as well now. You get you see them rhyming, the cycles rhyming, and I think you can draw some conclusions from that once you go through it. So
Right.
I think that's a really nice tweet to start with. That was a good
Sure.
choice.
And one piece of advice that Warren Buffett, legendary investor, he's a boomer. Well, he's past a boomer. He's really old now, but he says markets are where the impatient transfer wealth to the patient.
Absolutely.
So, folks, be patient. Don't be the impatient ones and sell, at the bottom because you'll be regretting it later. When later is, I don't know. We don't know, but it'll, the fundamentals are great. The technology's it's proven. It's like you said in the last bull bear, there was serious, we joke, some folks will write on Discord, crypto dead, right? Well, back then it was, I think, a possibility. But today, no, it's, we're right. It's becoming mainstream and it's not going anywhere. So
The last time I really felt that crypto might be dead was during the COVID crash. And that's only because like we thought everything was dead. Do you know what I mean? ETH was back down to $80 and it was in the 80s and it was painful. Like that was because, we'd just gotten this glimmer of a bull market to come. A Bitcoin halving was arriving and all of this stuff was happening. And like it went down to 80 from I think 300 or something around those numbers, 250 or something. And there was utter despair, and so many people capitulated in that moment, right? And that's the real time was to load up because obviously we went on a 60x bull run or 50x bull run from there. So
and Whack, if I recall, didn't Thomas, our Rocket Pool whale, didn't he buy at the bottom at 80 or something? From your interview with him,
he didn't buy ETH then. What he was doing was trading Tesla futures options in Tesla. So that's what he did. So he shorted. He longed it and then shorted it, or either shorted it and then longed it. But he did two trades back to back in Tesla leaps that just like
perfect
he went
timing,
from,
right?
He had 50,000 in Bitcoin that went to 600,000 that went to 8 million, I think, in those trades. And then in crypto terms, he went into Cardano and caught the Cardano run. So he had Bitcoin, then Tesla, then Cardano, then Ethereum. So he had 5 once in a lifetime trades back to back. So yeah,
You
that's like
just buy an island and retire and quit. Amazing.
he can do whatever he wants. Like
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
But good for him. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Like absolutely. Yeah, he's a really great guy. Absolutely love Thomas.
Absolutely. Okay, on to let's stick the Ethereum Validator Queue. So last night, as I was prepping for the podcast, Whack, we were down to zero. We were down to zero for several hours, and it looks like now we're back up to 9 hours and 22 minutes. It looks like someone withdrew some validators, but this has come down significantly over the last several months. We were at I think 45 days or so was the top, and now we're basically down to a day or less. So this is good for those who are looking to, if you got to do some maintenance, you got to switch nodes, you got to do, you can withdraw. I think the execute. The whole process takes a few days, if I recall, and then you can just jump right back in within a day and start earning ETH again.
So the whole process now will take you around 7 days, I think. So you've got to signal your withdrawal from Rocket Pool. That takes some time. You've got to go through like the exit stuff, and then you've got to go through the entry stuff. So then you've got entry queue on the Rocket Pool side. You've got an entry queue on the Ethereum side where you have to wait a certain amount of time. So I think all in all, it'll take you between 5 and 7 days. Probably just like if you budget a week for it, like losing rewards for a week while you get everything sorted out, I don't think is too big a deal.
No, that's great. Okay, on to the stats. We got the deposit pool at it's over capacity, 19,791. We've had some decent deposits this week, Whack. If we look at the daily, back on October 10th, we had 2,078. October 7th, we had 1,500. So, most of the time it's 3-digit. Occasionally we get a 4-digit. So any thoughts on the deposit pool?
Yeah, so of course, the deposit pool is full right now, so we're not going to be getting any deposits. So and because we're over full now as well, there's no premium to ARB. So the way to get that back down to 18,000, which is like the magic number, we either need someone to burn some rETH, or we need people to spin up validators without caring about there being any premium. There was some really interesting stuff that happened this week about like the premium of whether you should wait for a premium or not. And depending on how much you think the premium might get to, it might be worth waiting for up to a year, basically, depending on what your opportunity analysis is. So that I think people are still waiting, and they might have targets in mind of what they want the premium to be. And once we get those numbers, then we might see an influx of validators starting. But at the moment, things are kind of ticking along, and we're at around 540,000 rETH, give or take, which has kind of been like flat for the last month or two. But we're still kind of ticking along. So
Does the premium, is it affected at all by the Validator Queue?
No, so the premium basically is all about the secondary market. So when people can't mint rETH on the Rocket Pool, like stake.rocketpool.net, then they go to Uniswap or other places like Balancer, and they just buy rETH on the market. So when there's more demand for rETH than the protocol can take, then people buy it, and then that gives you a premium. So that's kind of where the premium comes from. It's all about the secondary market.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. And then let's take a look at the RPL ETH ratio. It's at 0.01198. It's gone down. Obviously, we were just talking about. One thing I notice here, WAC, is if we look at the RPL supply staked, it's at 50 over 50%, and you see over time that's been creeping up. Back in January of 22, we were at 14%. Now we're up to 50. And one thing that came to mind thinking about traditional equity markets is these small cap stocks that have lower liquidity. They typically they will underperform in a bear market compared to large cap stocks. And then when the bull run happens in equities, the small cap stocks will then race back and exceed the large cap. And RPL is a small cap stock in that. And this supply is very limited and liquidity is low. And so it works both ways. Right now, if you, as an example, WAC, if you made a sell for 1,000 RPL, it's going to affect the price. Well, during a bull, that's also going to work the opposite way. You buy 1,000 RPL, the price is going to go up. And so as the amount of supply stake continues to increase, the liquidity thins, sometime when the bull market comes back, I think we're going to see a lot of volatility on the upside as well.
Absolutely, and that's why people get into smaller cap tokens, right? Like that volatility aspect of it gets amplified hugely, and when it's going down, it's really bad. But when it's going up, there's nothing like it. Like there was months earlier this year where Rocket Pool was outperforming basically every token on the top, like not just 100, but like in the top 250, because it was having a bull market in a way, in the part of the cycle when no one else was, right? Everyone else was in the crab market or a bear market, and we saw tokens go down bad, and RPL like really rallied, and part of that was because of like the limited liquidity available. The thing is, like once we get to a global bull market in terms of all of crypto, I know this total stake number I expect to be around like 13 or 14 million, and I think that's going to be like the upper bound, and we'll see that number in around 14 months time, I think. And the reason why I'm saying that is because NodeSet, which we're going to talk about later, will go live in about 4 to 6 months, I guess. And then we'll have the Houston and especially the Saturn upgrades, which will come towards Q3 or Q4 of next year. Once we get those, I think we'll be in a really good situation for a lot of RPL to be locked up. And then that liquidity aspect of it, like you said, will just go down a lot. And then we'll just get more explosive moves, right? And that's what will happen.
I mean, during the bull for RPL last year or early this year, the supply was anywhere from 30 to 40% staked, and we're at 50. And if it at the max, what do you forecast? 60% or more?
Somewhere around like
the cap?
13 or 14 million, I think.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, and that bull run was before Houston and before Saturn, before Atlas, before imagine. So I'm trying to talk the positive talk this morning. You know, just to like, hey folks, there's some good stuff happening. Just keep your head down and do what you got to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just the main focus right now is just to survive. So if you
Yeah,
survive this
survive.
period, that's the main thing. Just survive, right? And then
Yeah,
whatever comes next, you can go to that next.
correct.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of liquidity, our friend Lucas Kozak had a really cool idea. You had this on your show, Whack. He posted in Discord. All our ETH holders could help backstop RPL by providing buy liquidity on our ETH RPL pair and earn fees while doing so. When the price recovers, they'd be again left with our ETH only plus gain fees in RPL. And
Yep.
so here's the pool that he was referring to on Uniswap V3. Why don't you
Yeah.
tell us what is Lucas was it trying to say here?
Yeah, okay. So Lucas is trying to say here that the RPL token right now is suffering a lot because there's very low liquidity on the market. So what happens is, like we were just saying, right, when someone sells 1,000 RPL, it can move the price more now than it could 6 months ago. And we're reaching a point now where there's very little liquidity on the downside. So that means like 1,000 RPL, if we go into that zone, would be even more drastic than it is at the moment, right? Like the amount of like hit that you takes in price. So what Lucas is suggesting is if you are an rETH holder, then it's likely that you're aligned with Rocket Pool protocol. And if you're aligned with the Rocket Pool protocol, you can use this time now as an opportunity to provide your rETH in the liquidity as liquidity on Uniswap. And what would happen is you don't need to deposit any RPL. You'll just provide your rETH as on a buying range just below where the price is, and then you will act as support for that price. So as people sell RPL, they will sell it into your rETH, and what happens with that is that as the price moves through your range, like so you can provide like concentrated liquidity. As the price moves through your range, you will earn fees from that. So you'll get some RPL, you'll get some rETH, you'd get some like just fees that come from that. So this pool right here is 0.3% pool. So as the price moves through your thing, you'll be earning 0.3% every trade that happens. The idea is that as you ride out this period, you might end up in a position where all your rETH has been swapped into RPL as the price goes down. However, as the price goes back up and goes through your range again to the upside, then you can withdraw all your rETH because you'll have all of that back and you'll have rewards on top in RPL and rETH terms. I'm not exactly sure what rewards you end up with, but basically you end up with like good rewards. That's what he was saying. I was talking to a friend yesterday who was saying that their liquidity position was earning around 30% in fees.
Wow.
30% APR. And I'm not saying that that's what you'll get by doing this, but like the fees are not negligible. You're also, of course, always earning your rETH rewards the whole time. Of course, the only problem is that if RPL token goes to zero, then you'll just be left with RPL tokens. So as the price moves out of your position. So there's some risk, of course, in terms of smart contract risk. There's not too much on Uniswap. It's an extremely battle-tested protocol. It's not had any hacks of any of their positions ever. And there's billions and billions of dollars of tokens in there. It's like the biggest honeypot in crypto, and it's fine. So I think while that risk does exist, it's not a significant worry that you should have. So if you look at the liquidity part of that tab, where the graph is, like, so no one's actually used this pool yet, but if you look at the liquidity, there was one person who provided around 60 rETH worth of liquidity yesterday, and as the prices move down into that, now they've got 30 rETH left and 2,600 RPL tokens. So as the price moves through that range, they get more RPL if it goes down or more rETH if it goes up. So that's a way of showing. So basically what Lucas is saying, that if you are an rETH holder, if it's just sat there, you're not doing anything with it, put it on Uniswap, help the protocol, earn some fees. It's a win-win for everyone. And as long as the price goes up eventually, you'll have all your rETH back and some bonus rewards on top. So
Yeah, I think that's a really cool idea. Thanks, Lucas, for sharing.
Yeah.
Okay, on to the vote that's ongoing right now in Rocket Pool is RPIP 4, determining the voting criteria. This is, I think, on for at least another week. Right
Mhm.
now, the folks who want to only allow people with RPL collateral of 10% or higher is slightly outweighing the folks who think all nodes should be eligible. Right now, we're at 42% for above 10% and 38% for all nodes. There is about 20% abstaining at the moment. It has met quorum. There's 2 votes. The one I have on the screen is for all nodes. So anyone right now who has any RPL collateral posted as part of their node can vote. And any thoughts on this? I know it's ongoing. I know you talked a lot about it earlier in the week. We don't have to hash it. We covered it last week as well. But
Yeah.
before we move on to the next topic, anything you want to say?
Yeah, so there's 2 votes happening, like you said. So this one that is for all nodes is a little bit closer, and the one that is for 10% to 150%. So if you just press back on the top left, that one has a little bit more of a lead for plus 10%. It's the second one down. Yeah, that one. Yeah. No, that one. Yeah. So this one, the percentages are a bit wider. So it's 48% versus 33%. The key to this vote is going to be 3 or 4 potential outstanding votes. So we have Val, who has abstained at the moment, and Val's idea is that his goal is to reach consensus. So whichever party is winning, he will vote with that party. The second big vote that's outstanding is Joe. Joe says that he will have time this weekend to read the arguments, and then he will vote this weekend. And then there's 2 other votes outstanding that could really make all this redundant, and that is one from Marco Barco and one from Thomas. So their votes, they have huge voting power, and they can swing this vote either way as well. So what we'll need to see is at the end of this weekend we'll have an idea of how Joe's voted, and then we'll see if any other votes come in. And we've got until the 24th of August to see how it all goes.
Okay. We will have an update next show. I think the vote will be closed. It says October 24th. So, by next week, it'll still be open. So, go to the forum, folks, if you haven't voted yet. Read the pros and cons and make your voice heard. Okay. Okay, on to the next one. Vitalik, he's been talking or writing a lot about a lot of things. He's mentioned Rocket Pool a couple times in between playing 3-dimensional chess. Which I didn't realize people actually played 3-dimensional chess. I thought it was only on Star Trek with androids, but I saw a picture once of him playing 3-dimensional chess, and anyways, he likes these blog posts, where he does some intellectual exercises and comes up with some potential ideas. He's kind of like, hey, what do you think about this or that? And he's talking about staking pool changes in the protocol that could improve decentralization. And he mentions rETH. What's the TLDR on this?
So the TLDR on this is that we're talking about different systems of staking that might be able to help Ethereum. So there's a real worry now that Lido is too big an agent, and they're not showing any signs of wanting to limit themselves. So what can we do at the Ethereum level to try to fix that? And those are some of the ideas that Vitalik's kind of been pushing. And first of all, he talked about enshrinement of LSTs at the Ethereum base level. So the Ethereum protocol itself would have its own LST. And here he's talking about different ways that you can model like a 2-tiered staking system. And he uses some examples with Rocket Pool, but it's not necessarily the focus of this particular article. So it's just giving you an idea of what Vitalik is thinking about with staking. And then, of course, he's hugely influential, and other people really listen to his lead. So I think that was something that people are really paying attention to.
I'm waiting for the day when Vitalik jumps in trading.
One day, we've had
it will happen.
Core developers coming into trading. We've had Tim Baiko, and we've had who else? We had Danny Ryan, I think, has been in trading. We've had a whole bunch of them. The people are not Vitalik though. My number one goal is to have Vitalik and Rocket Fuel at some point. I don't know if that will ever happen. I doubt it will ever happen. But that's when I will then just retire after that point.
That's funny. Okay, on to next. We were talking about NodeSet earlier, Whack, and Wanderer posted in the NodeSet Discord. He says the first onboarding emails for NodeSet operators have been sent, and the facts are they got 145 operators have applied in total. 51% of applicants met our pre-checks for onboarding, and they'll be reaching out to those who are selected soon. 49% of applicants failed pre-checks. Check your email for details. Now, he had a follow-up here yesterday. FYI, we have discovered a bug in our automated pre-check process. Performance is currently being measured for all time rather than last 3 months, which means that just a few applicants have failed when they should have passed. So they apologize. There'll probably be a few more folks, who were right on the cusp, who are going to get outreached. There'll be an outreach to them to say, hey, you did get selected. And so, did you get selected, Whack? I know you signed up for this. No, you didn't meet it.
Because what happened is I had some issues with my NUC, my node, and I think that's fixed now, thankfully. But then I had a huge power outage about 4 weeks ago, and that was costing me a lot. So there's 3 criteria, as you can see on the screen, that people were being checked against. The first one was performance. So they checked the last 90 days of your performance on your rated network, and you had to have an effective rating above 95%. Time validating had to be 6 months of validation before you got selected. And the third one was invalid signature submission. So you needed to make sure that you signed a signature from your node machine, and that was your entry ticket basically. So the performance issue, I guess they fixed that bug. So it might be likely that they'll have more now than the 50, I think 70 people or so. They're going to cap it at 100 people for this round. So we'll see how that goes in the coming days.
I think Wanderer mentioned, he said like the first 100, it's going to be like a alpha baby or baby alpha release. And we, as you said earlier in the show, I think I saw Nick later in this thread, Nick S., he said they're looking at the end of first quarter to go live. And that's going to be a really, we've talked about it, we'll be talking about more, but a real good scaling solution for Rocket Pool. I think it's an easy way for node operators to earn more yield and help out the protocol.
I think that's like the big thing that people are sleeping on right now is that this node set is going to really help push things, especially in terms of RPL staking. I think that they've got at least, I don't want to say at least, but I can expect them to have 2 to 3 million RPL under their control within 6 months of launch.
Yeah, and I think just looking a little longer term, NodeSet, I think is going to be the driving force for Rocket Pool until Saturn, which is expected at 12 months down the road. Yeah. So they go live first quarter. That's going to be like the big talk for until Saturn comes out, because then Saturn will most likely allow LEB4s and even more explosive growth, perhaps lower.
Yeah, exactly. Perhaps lower, depending on what happens between now and then. But this is a really exciting year for Rocket Pool, and I think really good things ahead. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, on to the next one. Ledger. We've been talking about this months ago, and it kind of disappeared, but Ledger Live now supports staked rETH. So you can go on Ledger Live app. It'll connect you to the rocketpool.net website where you can deposit ETH and swap for rETH, assuming there's room in the deposit pool. But this is a long time coming. And so finally, one thing I've read, Whack, is that someone estimated that Lido, 30% of their ST-ETH came from Ledger for folks just using their hardware wallet, going in Ledger Live and buying ST-ETH. Yeah. So this could be a real boom for our ETH at some point once the deposit pool frees up a little bit.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised by those Lido numbers. But even like the thing with the deposit pool, you have to notice that is that because they're integrating the Rocket Pool stake website, that actually will take you through a pool if the deposit pool is full. So you'll still be able to get it. You might just be paying a very slight premium. I think it's 0.03 right now %. So it's
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
So it used to be when first you could buy rETH through the website, through the deposit pool, and that's it. And now the websites have been enhanced where if it's full, it'll send you to the secondary market.
Exactly.
Awesome. That's really great. Okay, on to the next. Joe has a release update for Smartnode. Version 1.11.0 has come out. So if you're a node operator, you can go on and upgrade to the new Smartnode stack. And of course, one of the major announcements as well is that Prater testnet's going to be pretty much ended. So if you've got any testnet, any validators on that testnet, remove them, because we're just going through Holschke from now on. Yeah. And of course, poor Joe. I saw that Geth, like moments after he comes out with his version 1.11, Geth comes out with their new release. So which always happens, of course. But any quick thoughts on the upgrade?
Yeah, so Prater's been running for a while, and now it's being sunsetted with Gurley. So Holeshki is where everyone's moving to. So get on Holeshki; it's the place to be.
All the cool people hang out there.
Yeah.
All right. So this is a Rocket Pool podcast, but I thought it was worthy to note that a couple things about Lido this week, Wack. First, they had one of their node operators, launch nodes, as it's referred to here in the Twitter post, had 20 slashings, and those validators were taken offline, and Lido and the operator is looking into what the root cause was. But I chuckled a little bit from this because I recall Lido saying once that staking should be for the professionals, not for the hobbyists, as I think is the terminology. And look at this. One of their professionals had a problem. We talk about decentralization. If you have thousands of node operators or hundreds, if you do have someone get slashed, it's so insignificant. Mm-hmm. And Rocket Pool has had a node operator or two get slashed, but it's not even a blip on the radar for us because of the decentralization factor. Yeah. And then the one other thing about Lido, and we can talk about both these, is that their incentivized program that they applied for on Arbitrum has failed. The vote came down last night, and like 43% voted against incentivizing STETH, compared to about 38% for, with about 19% abstaining. So this was, I thought, a real signal that the social pressure on Lido is actually now having a real effect. And this would be the first real example of it, Wax. So all the talk that we've been having over the last couple of months about Lido, it seems to have appeared here on this vote. What are your thoughts on both the slashings and this Arbitrum vote?
So with the slashing, like in terms of TVL, like you said, this is minuscule. It's not even a blip, right? Like they've lost a tiny percent of their daily rewards, and that's expected because they're such a huge service. In terms of I think it should help people understand that there are risks to staking with Lido. It's not a risk-free stake, right? It is possible that, I don't know what the redundancies or measures launch nodes has, but they could have potentially had 10, I think they have 10,000 validators somewhere around that. They could potentially have had 10,000 validators get slashed if the problem that persisted, right? When you get one slashing, then it's possible to get all your validators slashed. I don't know how realistic that was, but it should make people realize that, Lido itself doesn't have any kind of insurance. So, well, it does have insurance, but it's very limited insurance. And if the slashings happen, that will come out of users' pay, basically their income. Whereas with Rocket Pool, it would come out of the node operator directly before it came out of the rETH. So that's one of the things to pay attention to. With the Arbitrum vote, I think this is the manifestation of all this recent social pressure that's been coming on onto Lido, and they've actually gone down by nearly 1% of market share of stake in the last month and a half, I think 6 weeks or so, since this social pressure started building. They've gone from basically 33% or just below 33% down to 31.95% or something. So, it's having an impact. I don't know if it's going to be sustainable, if it's going to keep going, but I think the social pressure is definitely working. slowly, but I think these are really big things that move slowly. So it's great that there's definitely stuff that's happening here. So yeah.
Would you say, on terms of the slashings, because Rocket Pool has RPL collateral as our major insurance fund, is it safe to say that our ETH is the safest liquid staking protocol?
I think so, and I've seen
A
analyses
token?
before. For the holder of our ETH, there would have to be some major problems happen before they felt it. Like it'd have to be like every single Rocket Pool node operator would get slashed, and then that would be a correlated slashing. But even that, because Rocket Pool's so small, it wouldn't impact like all their ETH. I guess what would happen is if there was a bug with like Prism or Lighthouse, then and that caused slashing of everyone on the whole network using those clients, then that percentage of Rocket Pool node operators could lose all their 32 ETH in that validator. But those are really unlikely situations. And I think overall, like our ETH is the safest in terms of insurance fund because it's so vastly over collateralized.
I think that's well said. All right, so that concludes our show for this week, everyone. Thanks for listening. Of course, none of this is financial advice. We will see you next week for another episode. And Whack, have a great week.
Thank you so much, you too, Pat. Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.